Hey guys, it's finalmasterlink, and this is going to be a IRL camera video because I actually got a suggestion from, there's this YouTube channel called Eric Landon RPG, which I'm subscribed to, and in it he had a video where he talked about his favorite RPG, or JRPG per console, and so I thought instead of just kind of having a list of that, I would make sort of a video response, which really isn't a thing anymore, but it's an excuse to show my face, which is ugly, and show some games which are not ugly. So let's go ahead and start. I got a pile here. Now, I tried to really decide if these are actually RPGs or not. I mean, like, people would say that Bloodborne is more of an action RPG, although I'd still consider it an RPG. But I did disqualify that. I also disqualified the Kingdom Hearts games because I would say that's really more of an action game than anything else. So let's go ahead and start with really the most recent one I played. I actually beat this today. I got Cosmic Star Heroine for the Vita. Now, some of these choices on here, it's really, the only reason why I picked it is because I just haven't played a lot of RPGs for that system. Like, I actually have, give me a sec. I actually have this is probably what I'll be playing next, so who knows, in a couple months this might be replaced. As of now, it's Cosmic Star Heroine. In a couple months, it might be Persona 4 Golden, which everyone seems to love to death. So, we'll see though. I'm not willing to put 100 hours into that game right now. But this is a pretty good indie game. It actually takes a lot of inspiration from Chrono Trigger in terms of like its presentation and its graphics, and it even has these cute little cutscenes in the middle of the action too. But it's pretty damn good. You really can't get this unless you'd buy it on eBay. I think it was limited to like 3,500 copies on the Vita, probably more like 4,500 on the PS4. But I'd highly recommend anyone who likes Chrono Trigger to check this out. So next we have, for the PS1, we have Final Fantasy Tactics. At first I actually wanted to put Harvest Moon back to nature, but really that's a simulation game. As much as I want to think it's an RPG, it is a simulation game. So Final Fantasy Tactics, I mean, what more can I say about it? It's quite good. I haven't played Final Fantasy 8 that much. I've never played 9. I've played through 7 all the way, although I think that game is overrated. And I can't really think of a whole lot of RPGs I've played for PS1, to be honest with you. I have Lunar 1 and 2. I have the Final Fantasy Origins up on my shelf here. I have Vagrant Story on my Vita. It's an okay game. I don't have like the big heavy hitters. Like I don't have Arc the Lad. I don't have Grandia. I don't have let's see. I don't have Legend of Legaia or whatever. I don't have those kind of things. I don't have Valkyrie Profile because that game's expensive as fuck. So I'm just gonna go with this for now. At some point I might do an updated version of this video just to see, what's new out there. And originally I was gonna put a Mario RPG for my 3DS, but after playing Bravely Default, I mean, how can I say no to it? It's a really good game. The only thing being the last 2 chapters of this game are kind of boring, because you basically like are stuck in a cycle of killing these 4 particular bosses. I wish they would just let you do an easy version of those fights, because you have to set up your characters in such a way to take them on each time you face them, and that gets annoying. So Bravely Default, great game. Anyone go check it out. Really, to me, this is a Final Fantasy game, like disguised as something else. Like this is what I call a Final Fantasy for casuals and hardcore, because you can adjust the difficulty on the slide. You can adjust the battle encounter rate. You can change a bunch of settings that would alter your experience. So that's why I say it's great for beginners and great for hardcore people. So that's that game. Now for the Wii U, again, I haven't really played a whole lot of RPGs on the Wii U. This is really the only one I could think, and I only own, I would say, 2 official RPGs. And one of them is Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I haven't played yet. So I guess by default, I'm gonna go with Tokyo Mirage Sessions, F sharp. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce the name. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be an F sharp or something. I don't know. This is actually the collector's edition. I got this at Best Buy. I actually have the other version too. I guess you could say I really nerd for the game if I actually have the standard and the special version. So, but I actually got this with Gamers Club Unlocked. I think it was like $20 off. Which how could I say no to that? I mean, mainly it has a pretty good. I think this comes with a soundtrack actually, and it comes with some DLC, which I actually haven't used yet. I probably should, because who knows how long that's going to be supported. But like, if this is anything like what Persona is as a series, I'd probably really enjoy Persona because this game kicks ass. And at the same time, I think it's kind of a shame because I don't think this sold a whole lot, or I don't think it really got the appreciation that it deserved at the time. But I'm convinced, like, you know, another 8 years from now, this is going to be a cult classic for the Wii U. There's no doubt in my mind about it. So, you know, expect that game to probably. I just spilled something. Expect that game to go higher in price in the future, though. So next we got the PS4. I mean, I haven't even been finished with Kingdom Hearts 3 yet. That would have been a contender, but like I said earlier, I'm not going to count the Kingdom Hearts games because I think they're more of an action variety game. So as of now, favorite for the PS4 is Ni no Kuni 2, of which I actually have the collector's edition of. If you kind of couldn't tell by this this sort of gold thing at the top, collector's edition. It's a pretty damn good game. It's definitely as good as Ni no Kuni 1 on the PS3. Although I think this is a little bit better in terms of the combat because you don't have to kind of micromanage with these little like Pokemon guys, which still wasn't bad in the previous title. It's just I'd rather be the actual characters in the game rather than be these sort of like nameless, soulless, you know, Pokemon avatar looking things. So it is a really good game. I also quite like the sort of kingdom development. Like it kind of makes me think of like some sort of RTS game, or it reminds me a lot of Little King's Story and Suikoden actually. If you don't know what those two games are, check those out. And if you like that, you'd probably love this game. So Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. I don't know if I mentioned that. Most people just say Ni no Kuni 2 though. And so for the Wii, so you're probably gonna think I'm stupid or anything, or like a loser, but I'm gonna go with Apuna because I have not played the last story. I haven't played games like I think there's a Tales series that they put on the Wii, like a sequel to Tales of Symphonia or something. I don't know, but and I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles yet. I probably will at some point. I probably should because it probably kicks this game's ass. This is kind of a niche, hard to find, obscure RPG out there. It's a weird RPG. I'll tell you that right now. I don't even think this is even like in the teens anymore. I think this is over a $20 game just because of how unusual and rare it is. So it's probably going to get up there throughout the years. I've never actually beaten it, to be honest, because towards the end of the game, basically you're blocked by like having a certain amount of like friends. Like the way this game works is you're supposed to sort of develop social links, sort of like I guess Tokyo Mirage Sessions. You're supposed to develop social links and like get these friends, and at the end of the game you're supposed to get like a certain amount of friends to actually like gain access to the final dungeon. I just never bothered to do that, so you have to be beaten, but still a good game regardless. Now, this is probably the only true game that I would think is like worthy of being considered an RPG, and it's for the NES, and it's a Zelda game. Let me take it out of its little box. I'm gonna go with Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. If you don't think this is an RPG, you're a fucking moron. This is the closest thing to to an RPG that we will ever get. The closest thing I'd probably say this is to is like Ys 3 on the Super Nintendo. It's a side scroller where you can like poke things with your sword and you gain levels and spells and you know the experience that you get is incremental from each level and all that stuff. So this is absolutely an RPG. So I'm gonna go with Zelda 2. I would have mentioned the original Final Fantasy, but I don't think that game has aged nearly as well as this one has. So Zelda 2. Now I'm sure you have heard me talk about this plenty of times. In fact, I mentioned it in my first game. So for the Nintendo DS, we have Chrono Trigger, which I would say, you could also replace this for the one I'm going to talk about on the Super Nintendo too. But I think this is the superior version, mainly because it doesn't cost as much. It's much cheaper than the Super Nintendo cartridge. And also, I think they added some new bosses to this too. And they also added a bunch of stuff. I think they also added more. They added cutscenes that was also on the PS1 version of this game, without the load times, which I've heard that's one complaint that the PS1 version has of this game. They also added a jukebox so you can listen to all the music. They added like bios for all the enemies to see like what their weaknesses are and all that. It's just such a good remake port. Another really cool thing is, if I recall right, this map was actually for the Super Nintendo, but they actually included it in this little remake. So let me just pull this out real quick. It is pretty cool. I would have loved to have this back in the day on the system. Check that shit out. How badass is that? Let me put that back. That's probably never going to be hanged up, because I sort of learned my lesson about hanging up these little posters. They just get all crappy and, usually covered in tape, which is what I used to use before I used some sort of adhesive. So that's Nintendo DS. Now, since I've already covered PS3, or have I? Have I covered PS3? Uh-oh. Did I not get a PS3 game? Holy shit, I didn't get a PS3 game. Well, shit. Alright, sorry about that interruption. I actually didn't choose a PS3 title, which is unlike me because I've played quite a lot of that. A lot more than my 360. So for PS3, I'm going to go with Final Fantasy X, X-2, which, as you can see, I'm kind of a big fan of these two games. Well, the first one anyway. X-2 is kind of shit. But, what can I say about this? I love it to death. I still plan to do a Let's Play of it at some point. I'm aware that they did make a PS4 version of this too, which I haven't bought. I don't really see the need if I have, the badass collector's version of this, Comes with a really nice art book and all that good shit, so I'm gonna go with that for PS3. Just put that over there. Now for the PS2, originally Final Fantasy X was gonna be for the PS2, but I have that for the PS3 now, which technically is the superior version because it has more content. So for PS2, I'm gonna go with Final Fantasy XII. Strictly because, even though I think this is when the series actually started to go bad, it is still a great game. It's just different, which, that's more than I can say about, like, say, 13. Yes, 13 was different, but 13 sucked. So that's kind of the difference between the two. And check out that badass steelbook case that I got going on. Ignore that marker. I actually got this from a Salvation Army, so they marked it. I haven't been able to get it off of... What is this, brushed aluminum or something like that? I don't know. But yeah, Final Fantasy XII. Although you could easily say that, that looks, you gotta admit that looks cool though. Come on. I kind of wonder how much this thing actually is on online if you wanted to buy it. But Final Fantasy XII, they mixed up the formula of the combat quite a lot. Like, this is, it's still an RPG, of course, but it's more akin to like an MMO game like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XI. In fact, that looks a lot like this game here. So I still do think it is a pretty good game. Uh, but I think this is the turning point for a lot of Final Fantasy fans out there. Actually, when this game came out, I think this was the first Final Fantasy game I've ever played. So this was about 2006. So, you know, really not that long ago, to be honest, about 13 years ago. But yeah, I'm gonna go with that for now. I haven't played a whole lot of RPGs on the PS2. In fact, I should probably search for some. I think they have a Tales series on there. I'd have to check. Well, I did get Dragon Quest VIII, I think, like a year ago. I could play a bit of that and grind for like 60 hours. So next we got for Xbox 360. Who else could it be but Lost Odyssey? I think this actually got ported to the PS3 also, but I don't really give a fuck because Lost Odyssey is or was like it was the Final Fantasy of the 360. It really was. A couple of bad things that I have to say about it, though, even though I do think it is great, and this should have been what Final Fantasy 13 was, but wasn't, because Final Fantasy 13 sucked. Two things about this game is the first two boss fights for this game are bullshit. They're way too hard and way too complex for that early in the game, which I think is a turnoff for the overall experience. Like, you're probably gonna rage a little bit in like the first 4 hours of this game. It's just gonna happen, and you're gonna end up looking up cheap ass strategies up on YouTube or some kind of exploit in order to get past just those two boss fights. So that is one thing I have to complain about for that. And the other thing is, and it's a minor thing, but I think it's worth addressing. It seems like the loading screens in between boss fights take a little bit too long for you to actually like see the battle layout. I think they could have worked on that a little bit. Although at the same time, I mean, when you open this thing, this is multiple discs, just like any like PS2 or PS1 game. This has 4 discs to it, believe it or not. Let me just, I don't know if you can see it all there. I mean, look at all that shit. 4 discs. So it is kind of akin back to the PS1 days, where you gotta switch your discs after certain cutscenes. And the cutscenes do look quite good, I will give it that. They do look quite good. And I think this came out in, 2007 or something. But a great game. Anyone that likes the Final Fantasies, I would say like 7 and before, would definitely want to check this out, and you'll probably like it. And we're going to take a little break and actually go to mobile, or not mobile, go to handhelds, So the first, I actually don't have a label for this, but most people probably see it's Pokemon Emerald. I have no idea how I lost the label for this. I think a friend borrowed it, and it just got water damage or something like that. But it does still work. I just have to replace the one particular battery that uses it for time events. Like, it can still save, but the batteries on the Game Boy Advance Pokemon games, those were used for like the timed events, like how the berries, like the grow cycle of them in the game. It's kind of hard to explain, but it does still work. Pokemon Emerald, I remember having the strategy guide pretty much when it came out. Like, I have a lot of strategy guides, especially for Pokemon games. And this is basically the DX version of Pokemon Emerald, or the Gen 3 Pokemon games. This is like this is the definitive version, let's just say. So it's pretty sweet, let me tell you. I don't think I really need to explain how good Pokemon is prior to a certain amount of generation. Some people say Pokemon shit now, but I don't entirely disagree. It's just, whatever. So speaking of Pokemon, let's talk about more Pokemon. So for the Nintendo GameCube, I thought about putting on Tales of Symphonia, because it was my first Tales series. I haven't quite found something that fit that exact style of gameplay in my life before. And even though at the time I confused it, like, subconsciously I was making an unfair comparison to Final Fantasy X, because I basically wanted to have that game's children, is why I loved it so much. So after I got that initial, it's not like Final Fantasy X, then I ended up really loving it. But still, for pretty much nostalgia alone, and because it's Pokemon, for the GameCube, I'm choosing Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I still have the strategy guide for this game. In fact, I think I have a poster of the Shadow Lugia, which looks badass as hell. I mean, you couldn't get more badass than a Shadow Lugia, in that day in Pokemon. I mean, look at it. It looks like it'll rip your head off. How's that not cool? But anyway, and the other cool thing about this game is that there's this certain place where you go to in the game. I think it's called it's like out in the middle of the desert. But what you can do is you can do sort of these mini game sort of things, and one of them I quite enjoy. It's like a simulation. Like, it puts you in these certain scenarios where you have to like do a certain move at some time in order for you to win, because like the odds are against you. Like say there's a Pokemon that's level 100 and you're controlling a Pokemon that's level 5, and you have to manipulate the system in such a way where you can still win even though you're only level 5. But stuff like that is really what I like about this game, and the single player experience is pretty sweet too. And also another thing, it doesn't really matter now, but there's I think there's 3 or 4 Pokemon they kind of like sprinkled into the game that are actually from Gen 4, because this is before Diamond and Pearl and Platinum came out, so that was also pretty cool that they snuck that in there. So the second to last game is for the Game Boy Color, and I currently do not have it, but I do have games very similar to it, and that's Pokemon Crystal. At the moment, I own Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver, but I don't have Crystal, and it's my favorite Pokemon game probably of all time, strictly because it made so much improvements over the original generation, and it really, it just seems so epic to me, going through the Johto region, discovering new Pokemon and some previous ones which they kind of recycled. And then after you beat the Indigo Plateau or whatever, then you go explore the previous region where your predecessor basically took on a bunch of people and became a badass, And then at the very end of that, technically it's post game, but at the very end of that, then you can challenge him himself. You can challenge Pokemon Trainer Red. Was like a freaking 81 Pikachu. I mean, goddamn! Like, how is that not amazing? It's just, it was so awesome, so awesome, and probably, I mean, the only thing that I can see that is about as great as that in terms of Pokemon is the Gold and Silver remakes that they did about 10 years ago. Those are pretty good too. So I'm gonna go with Pokemon Crystal for that. Now for the systems I haven't mentioned, I do have an Atari. However, I don't think I have a single RPG for the Atari. I have the 2600 and the 5200. I had to look. I always confuse the two. So I'm not going to choose any RPGs for that console because I really don't have any for that console. For the Sega Genesis, I can't really name one either because I've never even played through an RPG on that console before. I'd be probably most willing to play through like a Phantasy Star game because that's kind of what it's known for, in terms of RPGs. I haven't played a single one on the Dreamcast either, so don't bother asking for that. Really, the only game I've played on it is Shenmue, but that's not an RPG. That's an open world like action game, if that. What else? For the PC, which a lot of people, I guess, don't like to talk about PCs. PCs are a console, so for the PC, I'd probably go with I want to say System Shock 2, although that is a shooter game, like hands down, it is a shooter game. But if that's not good enough, let's see, not Terraria, because Terraria is not an RPG either. I don't know, I might not have a favorite one for the PC, honestly. I guess I just haven't found one that really like blows my socks off on the PC. Oh, well, actually at the moment it'd probably be the first Witcher game. That might change when I play The Witcher 2, but as of now I want to say The Witcher, because that is undoubtedly an RPG, and a good one at that. It's just really long. So with that out of the way, the last one, and I don't know if I intentionally did this or not because it's such a well-known game. For the Super Nintendo, I have Final Fantasy 3 or Final Fantasy 6, and I actually have this complete in box because I'm just that amazing. This game is really good. I would say it is better than Earthbound. I would say it's better than Chrono Trigger. I would say it's better than objectively. I'm talking about objectively. It's better than Super Mario RPG. It's better than Breath of Fire. I haven't played a game quite like this on that system in my life so far. But I mean, really, I don't need to say how awesome it is. You know, it got such good reviews back in the day. It didn't have as much influence to make RPGs popular in the West, unlike Final Fantasy VII, which did do that. Which I am glad it did do that anyway. But this kind of like made the push, you know, for RPGs to be popular in the West. So you know that definitely gives it merit to its quality, I think. And there's this one particular scene about in the middle of the game. You play as this girl named Celeste, and I'm trying not to spoil it. Basically, the world is like getting like torn asunder by the main antagonist, and so Celeste is on this like island by herself, and she sort of has an epiphany about wanting to continue on and all that stuff. That scene in and of itself seals why I think this is probably the best RPG on the Super Nintendo, and it's my favorite on the Super Nintendo. Only thing is, I haven't beat the goddamn thing. I don't know if I told this story, but when I first played this game on the actual console, I was probably about like an hour or so from fighting the last boss of the game when the game screwed up and somehow it deleted my save file. I don't know if like the internal battery for the cartridge died or if I did some sort of glitch, like just some one-time glitch that destroys your save file, but I got so pissed about it. I really should come back to this though. I think it's actually on the Super Nintendo Classic. Maybe I'll play it on there just to be safe. Wouldn't want that happening again. So that's all the RPGs that I can think of. Oh, the original Xbox. I guess technically you could say I have one. But it's not working. I think I bought a broken console at like a yard sale once a couple years ago. So I can't name anyone for the original Xbox. I don't have an Xbox One, so well they don't have RPGs anyway. Let's be honest. I can't really think of any more consoles, so that's gonna be all for this video. I apologize about the shittiness of the camera. I'm just using my laptop camera right now. I can see all the fuzziness around it to the side. It's annoying, I'm sure. But, fuck it. I just thought I'd do this video. So that'll be all for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.